Check, mic check, audio check, 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 audio check.
Hello, check. Hello, hello, test. Hello, check. Hello, check. Hello, check. Hello.
I request all the respected guests to please take their seats. आप लोग बैठ जाओ. ठीक है. May I have your attention, please? The swearing-in ceremony will take place in a short while from now. Please switch off your mobile phones or put them on a silent mode. Swearing-in ceremony being an official function, there shall be no clapping, please. Please take your seats, please. सब मोबाइल आपका बजा.
This cap is this side. This is the vacant seat for the signing.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Vishnathan's father is wearing his gown and bands, he said.
May I have your Lordship's permission to commence the proceedings? Communication has been received from Honorable the President of India. The communication reads as follows. May 18, 2023, 28th Vaishak, 1945 Shaka. In pursuance of the provision contained in Clause 6 of Article 124 of the Constitution of India, I, Draupadi Murmu, President of India, do hereby appoint Dr. Justice Dhananjay Yashwant Chandrachud, Chief Justice of India, as the person before whom Shri Justice Prashant Kumar Mishra, Chief Justice of Andhra Pradesh High Court, and Shri Kalpati Venkatraman Vishwanathan shall, before they enter upon their respective offices as Judges of the Supreme Court of India, make and subscribe an oath or affirmation according to the form set out for the purpose in the third schedule to the Constitution of India, signed by the President of India. Warrant of appointment of Shri Justice Prashant Kumar Mishra reads as under. By virtue of the power vested in me by Clause 2 of Article 124 of the Constitution of India, I, Draupadi Murmu, President of India, do hereby appoint Shri Justice Prashant Kumar Mishra, Shri Justice of the Andhra Pradesh High Court, to be a judge of the Supreme Court of India with effect from the date he assumes charge of his office. Given at Rashtrapati Bhavan, New Delhi, this 18th day of May in the year 2023, 20th Vaishak, 1945 Shaka, in the 74th year of the Republic of India. Signed by President of India. May I now request Honorable Shri Justice Prashant Kumar Mishra to take oath.
I,
I, Prashant Kumar Mishra,
having been appointed a judge of the Supreme Court of India,
having been appointed a judge of the Supreme Court of India,
do swear in the name of God
do swear in the name of God
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established,
that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India,
that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India,
that I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment
that I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment
perform the duties of my office without fear or favor, affection or ill will,
perform the duties of my office without fear or favor, affection or ill will,
and that I will uphold the Constitution and the laws.
and that I will uphold the Constitution and the laws.
Warrant of appointment of Honorable Shri Kalpati Venkatraman Vishwanathan reads as under. By virtue of the power vested in me by Clause 2 of Article 124 of the Constitution of India, I, Draupadi Murmu, President of India, do hereby appoint Shri Kalpati Venkatraman Vishwanathan to be a judge of the Supreme Court of India with effect from the date he assumes charge of his office. Given at Rashtrapati Bhavan, New Delhi, this 18th day of May, in the year 2023, 28th Vaishak, 1945 Shaka, in the 74th year of the Republic of India, signed by the President of India. May I now request Honorable Shri Kalpati Venkatraman Vishwanathan to take oath.
I, Kalpati Venkatraman Vishwanathan,
Having been appointed a judge of the Supreme Court of India,
having been appointed a judge of the Supreme Court of India,
do swear in the name of God
do swear in the name of God
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established,
that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India,
that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India,
that I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment
that I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment
perform the duties of my office without fear or favor, affection or ill will,
perform the duties of my office without fear or favor, affection or ill will,
and that I will uphold the Constitution and the laws.
and that I will uphold the Constitution and the laws.
May I have your lordship's permission to conclude the proceedings?
The court will assemble for judicial work at 11:30 a.m. today.
ऋषि,
उसे बदमाशी करने दो ना, तो वो गधा खड़े खड़े घोड़े की तरह सो सकता है।
डिसाइड कर लो, गधा हूँ या घोड़ा। अभी दीदी बंदर बोल रही थी।
परसों से एग्जाम है। आप पढ़ाते क्यों नहीं हो रितिका को? और उससे बात क्या करते हैं आप? हाँ? अच्छा, ओके।
जिंदगी को गुदगुदाने का रीजन, ये मेरी फैमिली का नया सीजन।
Amazon शॉपिंग ऐप के अंदर मिनी टीवी का बटन दबाइए
और देखिए ये मेरी फैमिली का नया सीजन
बिल्कुल फ्री।
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Okay. Thank you. Please switch on the webcams. All of you, please switch on the webcams. Yes, welcome to the analysis of the Union Budget 23-24. By now, you must have already gone through certain bits and pieces of the Union Budget which the Finance Minister had announced on 1st of February 2023. But we know for sure that just having a knowledge in bits and pieces about the union budget is not going to be sufficient as far as your prelims and mains examination is concerned. What we need for both prelims and mains is a detailed analysis of the union budget. And that is what we are going to do as far as this particular session is concerned. So before I start with the analysis of this year's budget, let me first tell you as to what would be my approach to this year's budget, how we would be approaching this year's budget. Let's understand the approach first, okay? So here, first and foremost, we will understand the importance of budget, both from the perspective of prelims as well as the mains examination. So here we'll understand as to in what way questions were asked in previous year prelims as well as mains from the previous year budget. Based upon the analysis of the nature of questions asked in previous year prelims and mains, you'll get a fair amount of idea as to what kind of questions you can expect in the upcoming prelims and the mains examination. So we'll understand the overall importance of budget from the perspective of prelims and mains. Then we will understand the background to the budget. When I say background to the budget means here, we are going to understand as to what are the current challenges which the Indian economy is facing presently, what are the opportunities before the Indian economy, and how the finance minister has sought to address these challenges and capitalize on the opportunities that we are going to face. So understanding the background to the budget will give you a continuity in terms of understanding the various components. So second part is a background to the budget. And nextly, we'll understand as to what are the priorities of the Union Budget 23-24. See, last year's Union Budget, it laid on a blueprint for Amrit Kal. As you know, India is moving from India at 75 to India at 100. So next 25 years, we will be celebrating the 100 years of India's independence. So last year budget laid on a blueprint for Amrit Kal. And you must be knowing that as part of the blueprint, the government last year has sought to increase its overall investment in creation of capital assets, such as roads, railways, ports, airports, and so on. Because it is believed that as we spend more on creation of infrastructure, automatically it will crowd in the private investment, it will increase the consumption expenditure, it will increase the job creation, and in a nutshell, we will be able to increase the GDP growth rate. So last year budget laid on a blueprint, a kind of foundation for the Indian economy. So once we have laid on the foundation, the next logical step would be to build pillars on this particular foundation, right? So this year's budget is going to lay down the pillars on the last year's budget foundation. So to a large extent, this year's budget is a continuation of last year's budget. For example, this year's budget has focused upon a concept. For example, this year's budget has focused upon a concept or a framework called as Saptarishi model. As part of this Saptarishi model, here government has set 7 different priorities as far as the government budgeting is concerned. So we are going to understand as to what are these priority areas for the government and how the government is going to give a flip to the Indian economy. So here, let's discuss the approach.
विक्रम, खाना खाया?
See, we all know that when the government presents the budget is presented from the perspective of Indian economy, right? So what I will be doing in this particular budget session is I will be converting the entire budget document of the government into your UPSC-centric knowledge. When I say UPSC-centric knowledge means I'm not going to discuss the budget in the same line as the way the finance minister has presented the budget. What I'm going to do is what all initiatives the finance minister has announced in this year's budget, all such initiatives, I'm going to club it under your different themes of the syllabus. Just try to recall your important themes under the syllabus. These important themes include agriculture, banking and finance, inclusive growth, infrastructure, social sector, right? So here, each of the budget announcements I'm going to club under different themes. So we will be carrying out a theme-wise discussion of the union budget. Now, for example, let's say I take up the theme of banking and finance. In the theme of banking and finance, there is one major initiative which the government has launched. This initiative is with respect to setting up of the National Financial Information Registry. Now, just having an information that we have set up a National Financial Information Registry is not going to be sufficient, right? Because UPSC will dig deeper into these aspects and ask you a question. So what I am going to do is, which each of the initiatives which the finance minister has announced, I will be carrying out a 360-degree analysis of these initiatives announced in this year budget. For example, with respect to National Financial Information Registry, I'm going to discuss as to why do we even need such a registry? What is the present problem in the Indian economy? And how setting up of this registry will help the Indian economy? So that in UPSC mains examination, if you get a question related to the National Financial Information Registry, you should be able to answer such a question. Just give me 1 second. Oh, Yeah, sorry for the inconvenience. Hope I'm audible. Okay. Fine. So I was discussing as to how I would be approaching the budget. So like I said, all the important budget announcements, I will be clubbing up under separate themes of your syllabus. I will be discussing the budget in a theme wise. Let's say I discuss a particular topic from the budget by adopting a 360-degree approach. Immediately, once I'm done with the discussion of a particular topic, I will take up prelims-based questions for practice and also mains-based question for practice. So I will ask you the answers for the prelims-based question for the practice, so that you are also able to answer questions from the budget. Apart from that, I will also discuss as to if at all a question is asked in UPSC mains examination from a budget announcement, how should you structure the answer to such a question? How should you write an answer in terms of introduction, body, and conclusion? And how can you enrich your answers? So all of these things we are going to discuss. Okay. So like I said, this session is not just about the budget session. It's more about how do you approach your UPSC syllabus from the perspective of the budget. This is what we are going to do, right? So let's start here with what's the importance of budget for the UPSC examination. First, so when you look at Indian economy, we know that Indian economy is a very dynamic subject. Since it is a very dynamic subject, you should always link the current developments to the static part and the static part to the current developments. By having that kind of cross linkages, your ability to grasp various concepts in Indian economy will drastically improve. And when you look at the budget, right, budget is considered to be one of the best link between your current developments and the static part of your syllabus. So you can link both these two things. For example, you can see here that you must have studied in the static part of syllabus the components of revenue account, the components of capital account, deficits in India, the public debt, and so on. So this is the static part. Now, when you go to the budget, you'll be able to link the static part to the current developments. Now, for example, you can just have a question. Look at the question asked in prelims 2021. The question is, which among the following steps is most likely to be taken at the time of an economic recession? Why do you think this question was asked in prelims 2021? You know what is happening with the Indian economy in 2021, right? So in the 2021, Indian economy was facing recession. So in order to come out of the recession, what did the government do? The government increased the capital expenditure, particularly in creation of new assets, new infrastructure, right? So this was in news that particular year. But if you look at the question, the nature of question, was it a current affairs question or was it a static question? It's a static question, but linked to what? Linked to the current developments. So what I'm trying to say is, when you go to the budget, your ability to link current developments to the static part will improve, and automatically you'll be able to get the right answer to the questions. So what do you think is the answer to this particular question asked in prelims 2021? Good. Answer happens to be B. That is increase in expenditure on public projects, right? Partha, you can lower your hand. I'll come back to your doubt later. Hope it's okay. Coming to the next part, in what way the budget is important? In the UPSC, we can get direct questions from budget. For example, in UPSC mains or prelims, we could get direct questions related to important schemes, important initiatives of the budget, or you could get questions related to important trends with respect to fiscal deficit, primary deficit, and so on. For example, you can see this particular question asked in prelims 2022. This question is with reference to Indian economy, consider the following statements. A share of household financial savings goes towards the government borrowings. Dated securities issued at market rated rates in auctions form a large component of internal debt. Now, if you have gone through my last year's budget, you would easily know the right answer. In the last year's budget, I had clearly discussed this particular aspect. So what's the answer to this particular question? Good Abhilash, good Gayatri. The right answer to this particular question is both 1 and 2. Some of you are repeatedly asking me to share the screen. There's some problem with respect to sharing of screen. If I share the screen, I'll not be able to see all the guys, and I want to see all your faces. That's the reason I'm not sharing the screen. Hope it's okay with all of you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, then in UPSC mains, you can see there are two questions which are asked. Mains 2017, there was a direct question with respect to the theme of the Union Budget 2017-18, which is with respect to transform, energize, and clean India. Apart from that, in Mains 2018, a direct question related to the important changes which the finance minister had introduced with respect to the long-term capital gains tax and dividend distribution tax. Direct question from the budget. Third, when you go to the budget as well as economic survey, you'll come across a lot of value addition points. Using this value addition points, you can enrich your answer in the UPSC mains examination. For example, by going to the budget as well as economic survey, you'll come across important facts, important figures. You'll come across the recommendations of important committees, which if you use in the UPSC mains examination, obviously you'll have that kind of edge over your competitors. Apart from that, in interview, if you get any questions related to Indian economy, you can always answer such questions by taking reference from the budget as well as economic survey. Let's take an example, look at the example as far as the third part is concerned. Please have a look at the question asked in mains 2022. The question is inclusive growth possible under the market economy? State the significance of financial inclusion in achieving economic growth in India. Look at the first part of the question. It says, can the government promote inclusive growth under market economy? Now we know what is market economy. Market economy is when an economy has tilted more towards the private sector. So here, while writing answer, you have to write points in favor as well as against. Now, if you have gone through last year's budget as well as economic survey, you could have written a very good answer to this particular mains question. Now, for example, you could have taken help of the budget and said that in spite of the Indian economic tilt towards the private sector, government has been able to promote inclusive growth through various policies, through various schemes, through various initiatives for which you could have taken help of the last year's budget. So last year's budget, what did it do? The government took a lead in, priming the Indian economy, in putting more amount of money into the Indian economy. By doing so, the government was able to promote growth and development, right? So that is how the budget becomes quite important as far as your prelims as well as mains examination is concerned. So here, when I say the budget, from the budget, you could get direct questions. Second, by going to the budget, you could link the current developments to the static part. And third, by going to the budget, you'll get a lot of further points which you can use to enrich your answers. So that is why the budget is quite important. Clear with this? So let's start now with respect to background to the budget. Let's understand the background to the budget. See, whatever I'm explaining, everything is there in the PPT. As you can see, it's there at the background, right? So what I would suggest is, instead of focusing on the PPT, just focus on the explanation part, because later everything is there in the form of handwritten notes. So let us understand the background to the budget. So here we are going to discuss as to what challenges the Indian economy was facing when the finance minister sat down to formulate the budget and how she has sought to address these challenges. Now, we all know that Indian economy has got integrated with the global economy. For example, if you look at the trade to GDP ratio of the Indian economy, when I say trade to GDP ratio, means the total value of exports plus the total value of imports. This trade to GDP ratio of Indian economy, this has increased to almost around 40% of India's GDP. And in fact, this trade to GDP ratio of India, you'll be surprised to know it is much higher than the Chinese economy. So Indian economy's integration with the global economy has increased, because of which whatever happens in the global economy, it has a tendency to affect the Indian economy, right? The best example happens to be the 2007-8 global financial crisis. So in the past, whenever any kind of crisis took place in the global economy, it invariably affected the Indian economy as well. But whenever global financial crisis took place in the past, it did not affect Indian economy much. There was no large-scale impact on the Indian economy. Question is why? Because whenever the global financial crisis took place in the past, these global financial crises took place not immediately one after the another. There was significant gap after every crisis. For example, let's go back to 1970s. 1970s, what crisis took place? The Gulf crisis, and then we had the Asian crisis in 1990s. Then 2007-8, we had the global financial crisis. So can I say there was gap of at least like 15 to 20 years between the global financial crisis which took place in the past? So because there was significant gap between the global financial crisis which took place in the past, India got sufficient time to recover from the previous global financial crisis. But something was different in the last 4 to 5 years. Particularly, if you focus upon the second decade of 21st century, that is in the last 4 to 5 years. What happened in the last 4 to 5 years? It being said that the global economy did not spare Indian economy, because Indian economy was repeatedly affected by global financial crisis one after the another. For example, the first effect of the global financial crisis was in the form of the economic slowdown which came into being because of COVID-19 pandemic. So because of COVID-19 pandemic, there was global economic slowdown. So there was contraction in the economic size of India. And we know what did the government do in response? Government came up with the Atmanirbhar Bharat package. To Atmanirbhar Bharat package, the government infused almost around 20 lakh crores into the Indian economy, because of which Indian economy registered a kind of V-shaped economic recovery, which we had discussed in the last year's budget. So Indian economy was slowly on path of recovery, but slowly as it was recovering, it was affected by another crisis. That crisis was in the form of Russia-Ukraine war. Because of Russia-Ukraine war, what happened? There was supply chain disruptions at the global economy. Because of supply chain disruptions, there was large-scale increase in the prices of essential commodities. Prices of essential commodities such as food, fuel, fertilizers drastically increased. So this Russia-Ukraine war has clearly shown to the Indian economy that inflation is a globalized phenomenon. When I say globalized phenomena, means when something happens in one part of the world, it has a tendency to affect all other parts of the world. So Russia-Ukraine war showed that inflation is a globalized phenomenon. So the Indian government took a number of supply side measures in order to bring down the inflation caused due to the Russia-Ukraine war. And as it was slowly recovering from Russia-Ukraine war, another wave of shock came. And this shock was in form of increase in the policy rates by the central banks of the advanced economies. So we know that in advanced economies, particularly countries such as US, European Union, the rate of inflation started increasing because of supply chain disruptions also, and because of large scale infusion of money into their economies during the COVID-19 pandemic. So as these countries started facing a very high rate of inflation, central banks in these countries started increasing the policy rates. And we saw its negative impact on the Indian economy, which is referred to as taper tantrums. So because of increase in policy rates by the US Fed Bank, its negative repercussions on the Indian economy was in form of large-scale FPI outflows, decline in forex reserves, rupee value got depreciated, and there was increase in the yield rates of the government securities. All this impact, negative impact on the Indian economy, we call it as taper tantrum. So the second decade of 21st century was different from the previous times. In what way? Previously, whenever global financial crisis took place, they took place one after the another. I mean, like the significant gap. But this time, there was a triple shock. They took place immediately one after the another. So because of which, the Indian economy's growth has obviously come down previously. But it is being said that Indian economy has shown significant resilience, significant flexibility to the global external shocks. This is because in spite of the external shocks, in terms of size of GDP, you can see nominal GDP, India's GDP is expected to be almost around $3.5 trillion by March 2023. Secondly, in terms of the real GDP growth rate, the Indian economy is set to register a GDP growth rate of almost around 7%. And India is set to make its comeback as one of the fastest growing major economies. So in a way, we are slowly coming back to the growth rate which we used to register prior to COVID-19 pandemic. The question is, what are the major drivers? Which factors have enabled Indian economy to register higher growth rate? Now, most of you must be knowing that one of the biggest driver of Indian economy is the private final consumption expenditure. Private final consumption expenditure is when people spend money on purchase of goods and services. So when people have started to increase their purchase of goods and services, that is when the private final consumption expenditure has increased automatically. Can I say it will increase the private sector investment? As the private sector's investment increases, we will be able to create more jobs. We will be able to increase the investment. And in a way, we will be able to promote the GDP growth rate. So one of the major dominant factor for the growth of Indian economy is increase in the consumption expenditure. In fact, this year's economic survey has highlighted that the consumption expenditure of Indian economy has increased to its highest level in last 5 years. So we know that consumption expenditure in the Indian economy was declining prior to COVID-19 pandemic also. But fortunately, for the first time in last 5 years, our private final consumption expenditure has increased to its highest level. That's the first positive development as far as Indian economy is concerned. The second positive development is there is increase in the capex by the government. Capex here means capital expenditure. So we know that because of the global economic, because of the slowdown in the Indian economy, the government significantly ramped up its capital expenditure on creation of assets. And remember, in last year's budget, we have discussed that if government spends 1 rupee on creation of capital assets, it can increase the output by almost around 2.5 times. So this increase in government expenditure has also considered to be one of the major growth driver. And because the government has increased its investment, it has automatically led to crowding in effect, which means that private sector is now incentivized to make more investment into the Indian economy. So, on one side, Indian economy is facing challenge. What challenge are we facing? The challenge is in terms of the external sector. External sector, we are facing challenge. Apart from that, you must be knowing the rate of inflation in India is still over the 4% targeted rate of inflation. This is the second most challenge. But good thing is the important growth drivers of the Indian economy, they have started increasing. The private final consumption has started increasing. The investment has started increasing. So in a way, we have a potential to register higher GDP growth rates in future. So if you look at this year's budget, right? To a large extent, this year's budget has carried forward the ideas which were incorporated in the last year's budget. In what way? Now imagine you're the finance minister of India, right? And sit down to formulate a budget. If you sit down to formulate a budget, what do you think would be a priority for you to propel the Indian economy forward? What will you focus upon? Look at the growth drivers. What will you focus upon? You'll control inflation. Good. Just look at the growth drivers. One is CapEx, capital expenditure by the government. This is what you'll do. And at the same time, don't you think you'll try to increase the consumption expenditure also? It'll encourage the people to spend more on purchase of goods and services, right? So this is what this year's budget has precisely sought to do. By introducing certain changes in tax rates, the government has sought to increase the capital expenditure, and at the same time, government has significantly enhanced its expenditure on creation of assets. Do you understand the philosophy of this year's budget? So to a large extent, it's a continuation of the last year's budget philosophy. So let's now look at the blueprint for Amrit Kal. So this was the blueprint for Amrit Kal, which the finance minister had laid down in the last year's budget. So this is a kind of foundation for Indian economy as it moves from India at 75 to India at 100. So this entire blueprint for Amrit Kal is based upon one important aspect, that is higher capital expenditure by the government. So as you can see, because of higher capital expenditure by the government, we can bring the Indian economy into a kind of virtuous economic cycle. And to do that, you can see what has happened to the overall expenditure on creation of assets. It has jumped significantly. Last year, it jumped from rupees 5 lakh crore to 7.5 lakh crore. This year, from 7.5 lakh crore, it has jumped to how much? Rupees 10 lakh crore. This is the amount of money which the central government is going to spend on creation of assets, which when expressed in terms of GDP, you can see it is 3.3%. Apart from that, we have a concept of effective capital expenditure. What is effective capital expenditure? If I've gone through the previous year budget, I have discussed this, but for benefit of all, let me tell you the concept of effective capital expenditure once again. Effective capital expenditure is the expenditure incurred by center on creation of capital assets plus grants given by the center to the states for creation of assets. So whatever grants the central government gives the states for creation of assets, if I add this to the total expenditure by center, what I get is the effective capital expenditure. So you can see the effective capital expenditure, kitna hai? 13.7 lakh crore, which when expressed in terms of GDP is quite high at 4.5%. Clear? Okay. So let's look at this year's budget, what it has focused upon. So before that, let's take up a practice question. Please have a look at the question. Which among the following is not the likely impact of rate hike by the US Fed Bank on the Indian economy? क्या लगता है आंसर इसका? I'm pretty sure the word not must be creating confusion in your mind, right? Good Anjali, good Mahesh, good Harsh, good Shika, yes, good Palash. The right answer to this particular question is decrease in the cost of servicing external debt. Remember, I told you that whenever there's a rate hike by US Fed Bank, it has an adverse impact on Indian economy. This adverse impact is called as taper tantrum. As part of taper tantrum, there is decrease in foreign portfolio investment. There is increase in bond yields. There is depreciation in the value of rupee. So let's say here that rupee value earlier was $1 is equal to 15. Now $1 has become equal to rupees 30. So this depreciation has taken place because of the rate hike by US Fed Bank. Let's say I'm a company based in India. So let's say last year, that is in 2022, I borrowed $1. When I borrowed $1, converted this $1 into rupees, how much rupees did I get? I got 15 rupees. Now let's say next year I'm required to repay this $1. Next year when I'm required to repay $1, how much rupees should I repay? I should repay how much? 30 rupees. So what will happen to my cost of servicing external debt? Can I say cost of servicing external debt will increase? But here what is mentioned? Decrease. And the question is asking not the likely impact. Not the likely impact means the right answer happens to be B. Hope you understood the concept? Okay, good. Please have a look at this question. Which among the following best describes the effective capital expenditure in India? क्या लगता है? Good Tanishka, good Abhidya, good Gayatri. Okay, so you can see the effective capital expenditure is the entire capital expenditure by the center and grants in aid by the center to the states for creation of assets. So right answer is D. Look at the third practice question. Which among the following has not been the impact of higher capital expenditure by the government in the recent years? Once again, focus on the word not. Which of the following has not taken place because of higher capital expenditure by the government? Good. So we have seen that because of higher capital expenditure of the government, what all has taken place? Fiscal deficit of the government has increased. Obviously, it's quite evident because to undertake higher capital expenditure, the government has to borrow more money. If the government borrows more money, fiscal deficit to badega hi badega, right? Then multiplier effect in terms of GDP growth rate. I told you every 1 rupee which the government spends on creation of assets, it has a multiplier effect of how much? 2.5. It will increase the output by 2.5. Even this has taken place. Has crowding out effect taken place so far? It has not taken place. In fact, it has led to crowding in effect, right? So this is wrong. And accordingly, your right answer happens to be 3 only. Hope you are understanding what way questions can be asked. So can I say, if you look at this question is completely current affairs based. But how will you be able to answer this question? Will you be able to answer this question without going through budget? Not possible. Only when you go to the budget, you'll be able to answer such kind of questions. Right?
सोचो एक ऐसी जगह हो जहां सुकून ही सुकून हो। स्वर्ग ऐसी जगह है जहां हमेशा दिल लगा रहे।
हमारे फर्लैंग को घर की तरह।
Furniture so good, you never want to leave home. Rent it, buy it, own it your way. Furlenco, great homes start with great furniture.
Okay. Now coming to the 7 priority areas for the Union Budget 23-24, which according to the Finance Minister, she has called it as Saptarishi, 7 sages. As we are moving for Amritkal, right? So what we need is Saptarishi. So as part of Saptarishi, as you can see, the government has identified 7 priority areas, which obviously is based upon your foundation. Your foundation is what? Infrastructure. Based upon this foundation of infrastructure, you are going to have 7 pillars. So these are investment, reaching the last mile. When I say reaching the last mile, it basically means catering to the needs of the poor and marginalized sections of Indian society. For example, as part of reaching the last mile, this year's budget, the Finance Minister has announced a separate scheme for particularly vulnerable tribal groups. I hope you must have studied about a category of tribal groups in India, which are called as particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So for the benefit of these particularly vulnerable tribal groups, we have launched a new mission Similarly, as part of inclusive growth and development, we have drastically increased the overall expenditure on health. See, one of the biggest concern with respect to healthcare expenditure in India is we are underspending on health. For example, the National Health Policy 2017 says we must spend at least 2.5% of GDP on health. This is the target. But until last year, we were spending just 1.5%. The target kitna tha? 2.5. But hum kitna spend kar rahe the? 1.5. But this year, we have increased our healthcare expenditure to 2.1% of GDP. This is our healthcare expenditure. Similarly, we have increased our educational expenditure to 3.1% of GDP. Further, as part of inclusive growth and development, we have launched a number of schemes and initiatives. What are these schemes and initiatives? We will discuss that later. Then, we have also seen this as an opportunity to bring about reforms in the financial sector. Like I said, one important initiative is with respect to setting up of the National Financial Information Registry. Then we have also set up a new fund called as Urban Infrastructure Development Fund. All of these initiatives we'll discuss one by one. Next is youth power. We all know that India is facing demographic dividend, right? Where a major chunk of India's population is in the working age group. So in order to reap demographic dividend, in order to harness the potential of youths in India, this year's budget has focused a lot on skilling the youths. For example, let us come up with an initiative to promote apprenticeship among the youths in India. Green growth. We all know that India has committed itself to net carbon zero emissions, right? Apart from that, we have come up with the new NDC targets. In order to realize these ambitious targets, this year's budget has undoubtedly focused a lot on promoting green growth or sustainable growth and development. And last is unleashing the potential. Unleashing the potential means here we are focused a lot on bringing about reforms in the governance so as to improve the ease of doing business and help the Indian economy to move forward. For example, right now we have large number of civil laws in India. The problem with some of these civil laws is violation of some important provisions of this civil laws has a provision for imprisonment, which goes against the idea of ease of doing business. So we have identified such provisions in our civil laws which provide for imprisonment, and we have tried to tone down on the punishment for the violation of such provisions. So some of the provisions which provided for imprisonment, those provisions we have amended to ensure that violation of such provisions do not provide for imprisonment, rather it may provide only for penalty or a fine. So these kind of reforms we have brought about. Now here, when it look at the budget, right, this is what the finance minister has announced. But when you look at the UPSC prelims or UPSC mains examination, it would be incorrect if I discuss the union budget as per these priority areas, because these are not the priority areas according to your UPSC syllabus, right? So what I am going to do is, what all announcements the finance minister has announced, all of these announcements, I'm going to club it under different themes. And I'm going to discuss the union budget as per the theme wise. So let's start with the first theme. You can see these are the themes which I'm going to discuss. So we have theme of agriculture, followed by theme of banking and finance, followed by theme of infrastructure development. Then we have the theme of social sector, and then we have the theme of sustainable development. So totally we have 5 themes. Apart from that, there are some minor initiatives announced in the budget. All of these minor initiatives I will incorporate in the prelims compass. I'm going to discuss only on the major initiatives of the budget, right? So let's start with the the first important theme, that is the theme of agriculture. There's one particular theme which is missing, which you could identify also. This particular theme is about taxation proposals of this year's budget. So taxation proposals incorporated in this year's budget. This taxation proposal will be, I will be covering the taxation proposals along with the economic survey discussion in the next Sunday. So when I take up the economic survey discussion, in the economic survey, you have a chapter called as public finance. In this particular chapter, I'll club the budget taxation proposals so that you have that comprehensive understanding about the public finance. Okay. And let me tell you, after each and every session, which we are going to conduct, like this week, it's a session on budget. Next week, next 2 weeks, that is both Sundays, we'll be having session on economic survey. After each and every discussion, you'll have a separate quiz. This quiz will be uploaded on the eLearn platform. In this quiz, you'll have the questions which would be likely to be asked from the budget as well as economic survey. So you can attend the session, go to the session. Once you're done with the session, please attempt the quiz. It will help you to revise whatever we have discussed so far. Clear? Okay.
हेलो ट्रेडर्स, इस वीक बैंक निफ्टी की इंट्राडे ट्रेडिंग में हर दिन ऑन एन एवरेज 5000 पर लॉट का प्रॉफिट बुक किया। मंडे को 5500, ट्यूसडे 5000, वेडनेसडे 6500, थर्सडे 4700, फ्राइडे 4000 में मैक्स इन्वेस्टमेंट लगी थी सिर्फ 9500। अगर आप भी ऐसे ही फ्री कॉल्स के लिए इंटरेस्टेड हो तो आज ही जुड़िए हमारे फ्री टेलीग्राम चैनल पर, लिंक मैंने डिस्क्रिप्शन में डाल दी है। सी यू देयर।
Now coming to the agriculture sector. In the agriculture sector, let's start with the first initiative. The first initiative is Agriculture Accelerator Fund. Now, once I discuss everything related to Agriculture Accelerator Fund, I will come back and solve these two prelims question for practice. So let's start with the concept of Agriculture Accelerator Fund. Now here, you must have known that Indian agriculture is facing three most important problems or challenges. The first important problem that we are facing is the input cost of Indian agriculture has increased. Farmers are required to spend a lot of money on purchasing of inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, and so on. Secondly, the productivity or yield of Indian agriculture has reduced. Third, the farmers are unable to get the right price for the agricultural produce. So there are three important problems: higher input cost, lower productivity, and lower prices on the agricultural produce. And the problem that we are facing right now is, if you look at technology, technology has penetrated almost all the sectors of the Indian economy. Like it has penetrated the industrial sector, it has penetrated the services sector, it has penetrated the education sector, right? But so far, one sector which has largely remained untouched or poor adoption of technology is your agriculture sector. So, in order to promote digital technologies in the field of agriculture, that is, in order to promote digital technologies such as, say, robotics, big data, artificial intelligence, precision farming, and so on, in the field of agriculture, this year's budget has decided to set up a new fund. It is called as Agriculture Accelerator Fund. Through this particular fund, the government of India is going to provide the funding support to the startups in the field of agriculture, so that these startups are able to support the farmers with respect to adoption of digital technologies. Now I can just say this and move on. But do you think that only this part is important from the perspective of prelims or mains examination? Not at all. Particularly, if you look at GS paper 3 syllabus, in GS paper 3 syllabus, you have a topic, role of e-technology in agriculture. So here, since this is an initiative in the budget, in the UPSC mains examination, you could very well get a question related to the digital technologies in agriculture. That is, what are its benefits? What are its challenges? What initiatives the government has taken to promote digital technologies in agriculture, right? So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to discuss everything related to adoption of digital technologies in agriculture. I'm going to discuss क्या benefits हैं, what initiatives the government has taken, what are the challenges, so that if you get a question in UPSC mains related to this particular topic, you should be able to answer such a question. So let's start with the topic. Please have a look at the mind map on digital technologies in agriculture. So let's start with the benefits part. See, I told you there are three important challenges with the Indian agriculture is facing: higher input cost, lower productivity, and lower prices, which the farmers get when they sell the agricultural produce, right? It is being said that digital technologies have a potential to address each of these problems and double the income levels of the farmers. How? Let's understand. Let's look at the access to inputs. Digital technologies such as ICT, artificial intelligence, big data can enable farmers to have access to inputs. How? For example, you have a company, an agri-tech company, an agriculture startup company in India called as Jai Kisan. This Jai Kisan company, it gives loans to the farmers. Now, how is it better as compared to loans given by banks and NBFCs? Now, when you look at banks, right, banks have to set up physical branches in rural India. When they set up physical branches in rural India, they have to recover the operating cost. To recover the operating cost, when they give loans to farmers, can I say the banks will give loans at a higher rate of interest? But look at these agriculture startup companies. Do they have any physical infrastructure? They don't have physical infrastructure. How are they giving loans? Through online, through internet. So since their operating cost is lower, can I say that they will be able to give loans at a much cheaper rate of interest? So this is the potential of this company called as Jai Kisan. Similarly, you could look at another company called as Gold Farm. This particular company is trying to promote agricultural mechanization. So one of the biggest problem that we associate with Indian agriculture is it has remained a kind of subsistence farming. We are not adopted mechanization. So this particular company has enabled the farmers to adopt agriculture machines and tools. Similarly, enhance productivity. So for example, look at this particular startup company, Fasal. This Fasal company has enabled the farmers to have access to artificial intelligence. It has enabled the farmers to have access to big data. Now you must be wondering, big data ka yahan pe kya kaam hai? What's the use of big data in agriculture? Now can I say, under big data, we will be able to analyze a large volume of data. So in field of agriculture, we can analyze large volume of data related to prices of agricultural commodities. So when we analyze the data related to prices of agricultural commodities, we can clearly communicate to the farmers as to which agricultural commodities fetch higher prices. So don't you think it has a potential to bring about agricultural diversification in the agriculture sector? Right now, what are the farmers growing? Just rice and wheat. But if you communicate to the farmers that if they grow alternative crops, they can get higher prices through big data, probably it can promote agriculture diversification. Next, what is ENAM? ENAM is an integrated domestic market which seeks to link all the APMCs across India through an online portal. So through the ENAM portal, a farmer based in one district of India, he can sell his agriculture produce throughout India where he is going to get the highest price. So digital technology has a potential to increase the prices received by the farmers, reduce post-harvest losses. Now, when you look at the post-harvest losses in India, it is in the range of almost around 20 to 25%. Almost 20 to 25% of food grains, fruits and vegetables get wasted every year. And this is as high as rupees 90,000 crores. So how can we reduce post-harvest losses? Best example is we can enable the startup companies to directly procure the agriculture produce from the farmers, right? For example, we have startup companies such as Ninja Cart, which is, creating that kind of backward linkages to the farmers, directly procuring the agriculture produce from the farmers and then selling it to the customers. Same, we have eChopal. So digital technologies undoubtedly has a lot of potential with respect to transforming the Indian agriculture. In fact, the Committee on Doubling Farmers' Income, that is Dalwai panel, it has made a very beautiful statement. The statement made by Dalwai panel is, adoption of digital technologies has a potential to transform Indian agriculture to become more industrialized. Look at the word. Indian agriculture can become more industrialized. What is meaning of this? Indian agriculture can become more developed. And at the same time, this committee has also said that it can bring about what is referred to as constructive disruption. Constructive disruption of the Indian agriculture. Disruption for a good cause. So we know that already government has taken a number of initiatives to promote digital technologies. You can see Kisan Suvidha app, which provides the necessary information to the farmers. Then we have a Uber-like app, which the farmers can download. And through this particular app, they can rent out various agriculture machineries, machines, tools, which can in turn help us promote the farm mechanization. Then we have ENAM, Agmark Net. Any idea what is this Agmark Net? किसी को पता है? Agmark Net. No? Okay. Agmark Net here is basically a kind of portal, a kind of platform which disseminates information to the farmers related to prices of agricultural produce. So on a real-time basis, it communicates to farmers as to what is the present price of different agricultural produce. So this particular portal is very important for price discovery. It is quite important, a decision-making tool by the farmers based upon which the farmers can decide as to which crops they can grow. Then we have Kisan call centers for the queries of the farmers. Then Niti Aayog has started a pilot project on precision agriculture. And look at some states in India. Some states in India, such as Karnataka as well as Maharashtra, they have gone one step forward and they have set up separate funds to promote startups in the agri-tech sector. So can I say, when state governments have set up their own funds to promote agri-tech startups, why should the central government lag behind, right? So taking a cue, the central government has now decided to set up a new fund called as Agriculture Accelerator Fund. Through this fund, we are going to support agri-tech startups by young entrepreneurs in rural areas. But in spite of the potential associated with the digital technologies, adoption of digital technologies is going to be extremely challenging looking at the present state of Indian economy. What are these challenges? For example, we know that most of the agriculture land holding in India is fragmented. So you must be knowing that almost 86% of farmers in India are small and marginal farmers. They're extremely poor farmers. And when they are so poor, do you think they will be able to afford these advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence, precision farming, big data? It's very, very less. Affordability is also a problem. And look at this, lack of enabling policy framework. What is this? Now, when you look at the government support to the farmers, government has always supported the farmers in terms of providing various subsidies on inputs. Like government provides subsidies with respect to water, electricity, credit, etc. But so far, the government has not come out with a separate initiative as such to promote adoption of digital technologies in the field of agriculture. So this was a lacunae which was existing since long. To a certain extent, this particular problem has been addressed in this year's budget by setting up a new fund, accelerator fund. And they can see the other problems such as lack of skill set, lack of extension. What is extension? Extension means that whenever new developments are taking place in the field of technology, ultimately these new developments would have to be adopted at the farm level. So this flow of technology from research institutes to the farm, this we call it as extension. How it is done? It is done through KVKs. You must have heard of Krishi Vigyan Kendras, right? So Krishi Vigyan Kendras at the district level, they communicate to the farmers as to what are the benefits of the advanced technology and how that advanced technology can benefit the farmers. But it is being said that the extension facilities in India is quite poor. So we have to ramp up the extension facilities so that the farmers are able to adopt these new age technologies. So this is what you must understand as far as digital technologies in the field of agriculture is concerned. Now just imagine a question in UPSC mains examination. What question can you get in UPSC mains examination with respect to role of e-technology in agriculture, which is part of your UPSC mains syllabus? One, you could get a question related to the potential of digital technologies in transforming Indian agriculture. We have discussed this. Another, we could get a question with respect to initiative which the government has taken with respect to promotion of digital technology. We have discussed that. Or we could get a very simple question about what are the challenges in adoption of digital technology. So if you get any question related to the digital technology in agriculture, you would be able to write an answer to that particular question. That is what is my intention. I hope we are clear now, right? So let's take up a practice question and try to solve the answer to that particular practice question. Okay, please have a look at the question. Digital technologies have a potential to address the problems faced by Indian agriculture. In the light of this, discuss various challenges in the adoption of e-technology for the benefit of farmers. What is the primary demand of the question? The primary demand of the question is with respect to challenges. But can you directly start writing challenges of digital technology in agriculture? No, right? So your answer should be very structured, right? So in order to structure your answer, what you could do here is you could start with the potential of digital technology in agriculture. Now, what statement can you write here? Anyone? What statement can you write with respect to potential of digital technologies? Good. All of you are good, Surya. Good, Abhishek. The statement which Dalwai panel has mentioned with respect to how digital technologies can transform the Indian agriculture, right? So remember I told you Dalwai panel, what did it say? The Dalwai panel has said that adoption of digital technology in agriculture has a potential to make Indian agriculture more industrialized and create constructive disruptions. So you can start with the potential. Once you start with the potential, you could, in the body, even though the primary demand is about the challenges, you could just highlight the initiatives and benefits. When you look at benefits, instead of writing it in terms of points, you could just incorporate a hub and spoke diagram like this. And you can write 5 to 6 benefits. By doing that, you'll be able to save on the number of words. So you're able to do justice to the question also, and you're able to save on the words also. And then focus predominantly on the challenges. Remember, we discussed all the challenges, right? After writing about all the challenges, then you could write the conclusion or the way forward. Are we clear with this? But let me show you the model answer to this particular question as well. Let's look at the model answer. Please have a look at the model answer. Like I said, the benefits of digital technology in agriculture is like a hub and spoke diagram. The initiatives I've highlighted, but the main focus should be on the challenges. So you can see the adoption of digital technologies face multifaceted challenges. All the challenges you can write down here, right? Someone was asking me a question about elaborating lack of enabling policy framework. You can see adoption of technologies through subsidies yet to gain momentum. That is what I was trying to convey. And look at the conclusion. The Dalwai panel has highlighted that digital technologies can emerge as a key enabler for doubling the farmer's income. Going forward, these constraints and challenges should be addressed at the earliest so that agriculture sector reaps the benefits of the digital technologies or ICT. I hope we are clear, all of you. Okay, fine. Let's look at the practice question, MCQ number 4. It's very easy question. Good. Okay. If this is easy, let me find out how many of you will be able to correctly answer this question. Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. Suna hai? Have you heard of this fund? Good, Abhishek. Good, Monica. Okay, just understand this concept of Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. Let me discuss about Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. I'm just discussing this because do not get confused between Agriculture Infrastructure Fund and Agriculture Accelerator Fund. They both are different. When you look at Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, this is a fund which was unveiled by the government as part of Atmanirbhar Bharat package. As part of this particular fund, the government is providing loans to primary agriculture credit societies, farmer producer organizations, as well as startups in order to improve the post-harvest management infrastructure. What is post-harvest infrastructure? Post-harvest infrastructure could be like setting up of collection centers at the farm level, setting up of the primary processing centers, setting up of warehouses, storage by startups, by PSCS, that is primary agriculture credit societies, and so on. Are we giving them grants or are we giving them loans? We are giving them loans, not grants. So the first statement says it provides loans, which is correct. Second statement says all the loans provided under this facility have interest subvention by the government. What is interest subvention? Interest subvention means subsidy on payment of interest. For example, let's say you have a startup company which has taken loan under this particular fund, and the rate of interest on this particular loan is equal to 8%. So when the government is providing interest subvention, it means that the startup company did not pay the entire 8% rate of interest. The government might pay some interest on behalf of the startup company. For example, the startup company might pay only 6% rate of interest, and remaining 2% rate of interest will be paid by government on behalf of the startup company. So this 2% rate of interest which government is paying on behalf of startup, usko hum kya bolte hain? Interest subvention. So government has said that all the loans will have interest subvention. Look at the third component. It says it is a centrally sponsored scheme. I hope all of you must be knowing the difference between central sector scheme and centrally sponsored scheme. Central sector scheme is 100% financed by the center. Centrally sponsored schemes are financed by center and states in certain proportion. When you look at Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, it is a central sector scheme, which means 100% financed by whom? By the central government. So third statement which is given here is incorrect. So right answer is 1 and 2. The reason why I discussed this particular question is I just wanted you to understand that Agriculture Accelerator Fund and Agriculture Infrastructure Fund are different. Are we clear now, all of you? Okay. Next, coming to the cotton production in India. So this year's budget has sought to promote the production of extra long staple cotton. So let's first understand what is the present status of cotton production in India, and then we'll understand as to why do we need to promote the production of extra long staple cotton. This is what I'm going to discuss. Sabse pehle, let's look at the present status of cotton production in India. So right now, India accounts for 40% of area under the cotton production at a global level. So in terms of area, India occupies the largest area under cotton cultivation at the global level. Secondly, India accounts for 22% of the world's cotton production. And India is right now the world's largest cotton producer. So both in terms of area under cotton cultivation as well as the cotton production, India has occupied first place. In some of the sources, it has been mentioned that China is the largest producer of cotton. But as per the latest data, that is as per the government data itself, India is the largest producer of cotton. Now you must have seen cotton when it is grown in fields, right? It is in a form of cotton ball. You must have seen cotton, right? It's a kind of ball. So what happens is from this particular ball, we take out cotton threads. Cotton threads are taken out and we have the different types of cotton. So depending upon the length of the cotton thread that we get from the cotton ball, we have different types of cotton. Like we have short staple cotton, medium staple cotton, and long staple cotton. Right now in India, we are trying to promote more cultivation of medium staple cotton and long staple cotton. So in order to promote the cultivation of medium staple cotton and long staple cotton, the government of India announces MSP. I hope you must be knowing minimum support price. It is announced for medium staple and long staple cotton. Once the MSP is announced, the Cotton Corporation of India, which is a PSU, comes into play and it undertakes a procurement of the medium staple cotton and long staple cotton. So आपको क्या पता होना चाहिए that there is no MSP for short staple cotton. We have MSP only for two varieties of cotton, that is medium staple and long staple. Okay? And what about extra long staple cotton? Now this is the most interesting part. Like I said, depending upon the cotton length, we have different types of cotton. When you look at extra long staple cotton, it's a cotton whose length is more than 32.5 mm. We call it as extra long staple cotton. Now, why it is so significant? So when you look at the short staple cotton, the cotton of short thread, it is very difficult to work upon these short staple cotton, which means it's very difficult to weave the short staple cotton into textiles. Even if you weave them into textile, the textile quality that you get, it is quite inferior. Staple means length, Archie. Staple means your length. We're talking about the length of the cotton. So here, the short staple cotton, we cannot weave it into textiles. Even if you weave it into textiles, the quality of textile is very inferior. It is not durable. Such a textile has more wrinkles. So these are the problems. But when you look at the long staple cotton, right? The long staple cotton, since it is very long, it can be woven into textiles easily. The textiles that we get out of this extra long staple cotton, it is considered to be very superior quality textile. It is more durable. It has much higher finish. It has less wrinkles. So you must have come across certain clothing brands in India which sell premium quality of shirts, premium quality of pants, cotton shirts and cotton pants. These premium quality of cotton shirts and cotton pants, they are made from what? The extra long staple cotton. There are two world famous examples of extra long staple cotton. One is Egyptian Giza cotton and the second one is US Supima cotton. These are the world famous extra long staple cotton. Now, what is the present status of extra long staple cotton in India? Now, when you look at 1996, the share of extra long staple cotton in the overall cotton production of India, this was as high as around 10%. But since then, the share of extra long staple cotton has dropped to just 1%. Right now, there are two dominant varieties of extra long staple cotton which are grown in India. Please remember the names. The names are Suvin and DCH32. Important from the perspective of prelims. Apart from that, please look at the states where we are growing the extra long staple cotton. There are only 3 states in which we are growing extra long staple cottons. These states are Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Madhya Pradesh. So like I said, because we have not focused much upon the production of extra long staple cotton, there is huge demand supply mismatch. So much so that almost around 90% of extra long staple cotton that we use in India, it is imported from other countries. Now, if you look at India, can I say India has been traditionally a cotton growing country? For example, if you go back to the East India Company's times prior to say 18th century, India was among one of the finest producers of cotton at a global level. But look what has happened to the present state. Are we Atmanirbhar as far as cotton production is concerned? Absolutely not. So in order to promote Atmanirbharta with respect to the production of cotton, the government of India has sought to promote the production of extra long staple cotton. How are we going to increase the production of extra long staple cotton? So when you look at this extra long staple cotton, you should understand that this variety of cotton cannot be grown throughout India. It can be grown in only certain pockets of India. Why? Because this variety of cotton requires ideal climatic conditions, ideal soil conditions, ideal water requirements. So what we are going to do is, we are going to identify the clusters in India where we can promote the cultivation of extra long staple cotton. In these clusters, we are going to promote the cultivation of this cotton, especially through the public-private partnership between farmers, state, and industry. So we are going to have a kind of public-private partnership where private sector will bring in its own expertise, in terms of development of new varieties of seeds for extra long staple cotton. The state government will provide the necessary funding support to the farmers to adopt the cultivation of extra long staple cotton, and farmers will also be provided with adequate market linkages. So if you know this much, more than sufficient. And here, when I say long staple, please understand long staple will also include extra long staple also. Got this? Okay. I hope you're clear, all of you. Okay, so let's take up a practice question. Look at this practice question number 6. Good. The right answer to this particular question is 1 and 2 only. What about this? This is a very easy question. Some of you are giving me the answer as A because you're not reading all the options, and that is what UPSC also does. Answer can't be A. Please read all the options. Yes. Hybrid varieties of extra long staple cotton cultivated in India. It's not A. Got it? Okay. Okay. Now coming to the horticulture sector. Now with respect to horticulture sector, the Union Finance Minister has announced a new program. The name of the program is Atmanirbhar Horticulture Clean Plant Program. So as part of this particular program, the government is trying to provide for safe and clean planting material to the farmers involved in the cultivation of horticultural crops. But I will take this as an opportunity to discuss everything related to horticulture sector, that is potential challenges, initiatives, and so on. So let's start with the present status of horticulture sector. See, when I say horticulture, the first thing that comes to your mind is just fruits and vegetables. But you must understand that horticulture sector does not just include fruits and vegetables. It includes fruits, vegetables, flowers, spices, plantation crops, aromatic crops, all of this. Together, we call it as the horticulture sector. And you know what's the best part about the horticulture sector? The horticulture sector occupies just 14% of the area under agriculture, but it contributes 33% of agricultural GDP. So with less amount of area, it is able to contribute more to the agriculture GDP. That's a most significant part about the horticulture sector. And the second important thing that you must understand is from last 5 to 6 years, the overall production of horticultural crops has surpassed the production of the food grains. Annually, the production of food grains is somewhere around 300 million tons, but the production of horticulture crops is much higher at 330 million tons. It's another important prelims pointer that you must remember. What's the significance of horticulture sector? You can see it can provide us with nutritional security, particularly fruits and vegetables. Can I say they're rich in vitamins, micronutrients, macronutrients? So it has a potential to address the nutritional insecurity that we are facing right now. It can enhance the income levels of the farmers. For example, according to Dalwai panel, 1 hectare of agriculture land, which is right now used for monocropping, that 1 hectare, if you divert it for cultivation of horticulture crops, automatically farmers' income can increase by 1 lakh. Can you see the potential? 1 hectare of agriculture land, if you use it for horticulture, automatically income level of farmer will increase by 1 lakh. So huge potential. And it can also promote secondary agriculture. What is secondary agriculture? Secondary agriculture means food processing industries. We all know food processing industry is one of the sunrise sector of the Indian economy, right? So it has a potential to significantly improve the food processing sector in India. But the horticulture sector is facing a number of problems and challenges. What problems are we facing? Sabse pehle, it has a long gestation period. For example, if a farmer has to decide to grow mango, orange, grapes, etc., can I say the gestation period for growth of these crops is quite high, like 3 years, 4 years. So farmer has to wait for a much longer time before he starts earning income, right? So that's one of the biggest concern. Second is senile orchards. What is senile? Senile means old orchards. So whatever horticulture orchards that we have in India, they are very old. Since they are very old, the kind of technology which they are using for producing horticulture crops, it is very outdated. So that is why the yield of the orchards is very low. The quality of planting material is very poor. So even though we have set up nurseries across India to provide for good planting material, we have not been able to provide good planting material to the farmers. Look at this, poor tree canopy management. What is this tree canopy management? Tree canopy management is an important component of the horticulture sector. So when the horticulture crops are growing, especially during the initial stages like mango trees or orange, apple, etc., here we have to provide for the poor for good canopy management. For example, if a tree, when it is growing, it has the potential to grow the branches very close to the ground, especially during the initial stage. So we need to cut these branches in the initial stages so that the tree grows vertically. So this is concept of canopy management. But since farmers do not have proper idea about this, the overall yield of the horticulture crops is quite lower. And since we do not have adequate cold storage facilities, we have high post-harvest losses, which I told you, like almost 20 to 25% of fruits and vegetables that are grown in India, they get wasted annually. So to address these problems, earlier the government of India had launched this particular mission for integrated development of horticulture. Taking this forward, now in this year's budget, we have launched a new Atmanirbhar Horticulture Clean Plant Program, under which we are promoting disease-free, high-quality planting material. Just like how we are setting up nurseries across India, under this particular program, we are going to set up clean plant centers across the country. And remember who is going to implement this? It is going to be implemented by National Horticulture Board. So, what more has to be done in order to reap the benefits of the horticulture sector? So you can see we have to focus upon horticulture plus. What is horticulture plus? Within the horticulture sector, there are certain crops which have a potential to fetch a much higher prices for the farmers. These crops are called as horticulture plus crops. Some of these crops include flowers, cashew, cocoa, spices, etc. So we must focus more upon horticulture plus strategies so that the farmers are able to earn more income. We need to expand the overall area under horticulture, especially by focusing on the peri-urban areas. What is peri-urban area? Peri-urban area is a kind of an area around the main urban areas. Like we have Delhi NCR region, right? So around the Delhi NCR region, we can focus on promoting the cultivation of fruits and vegetables. Now, why it is good? It has a dual benefit. Dual benefit as in like when we grow horticulture crops, that is fruits and vegetables in and around the Delhi NCR region, first and foremost, the fruits and vegetables which are so grown, they can be transported to the urban areas without any additional transportation cost. The post-harvest losses will also be lower. That's one benefit. And don't you think we as customers will also get benefit in terms of fresh fruits and vegetables, right? So transportation costs will reduce, and at the same time, we as customers will also have access to better quality fruits and vegetables. So we have to focus on peri-urban horticulture, focus on high yielding hybrid varieties. So look at the Green Revolution. Why was Green Revolution so successful? Because we focus on high yielding varieties of rice, wheat, etc. Similarly, we need to focus upon high yielding varieties of horticultural crops. And lastly, we have to promote mixed farming. Mixed farming, as you know, is we must encourage the farmers to cultivate fruits and vegetables along with the cultivation of food grains. By going for mixed farming, can I say the risk associated with the agriculture sector will drastically reduce, because farmers will not be dependent on just one crop. They will be dependent upon multiple crops. They'll also be able to earn income throughout the year. So please have a look at the mind map on the horticulture sector. So these are the strategies, the problems, and the budget proposal. Are you able to see the entire screen? All of you? Okay. Bottom one line is not visible. That's okay. I guess you can manage it the one line. Ultimately, the PPT will be shared with you after the class. You can go through that part. Okay. Okay. The reason why I discuss this topic in so much depth is because look at the question asked in Mains 2018. Assess the role of National Horticulture Mission in boosting the production, productivity, and income of the horticulture farms. So that is why we have this particular practice question about which we will be discussing. I'll show it on the next screen. But meanwhile, look at this practice question. India is not the largest producer. India is the second largest producer. The production of horticulture crops is higher than food grain production. It is correct. Look at the practice question. What do you think are the opportunities and challenges in promoting golden revolution in India? Also suggest some strategies to address these challenges. When I say golden revolution, what is golden revolution? Golden revolution is with respect to horticulture sector. But imagine if you come across this question in UPSC mains, and let's say you don't know the meaning of golden revolution, and let's say this question is asked for 15 marks. Will you be able to write an answer to such a question? So one word can actually help you to get 15 marks. So here, just understand golden revolution means horticulture sector, right? So here, the question is very simple. Opportunities and challenges. In terms of opportunities, what can you write? I told you the points. It has a potential to address nutritional insecurity. It has a potential to increase the farmer's income level. It has a potential to give a fillip to secondary agriculture. In terms of challenges also, we have discussed the challenges. Strategies also we have discussed. So you can look at a suggested answer structure. I hope you'll be able to write an answer to this question, all of you. Okay, good. Okay. Now coming to the next initiative. The next initiative is with respect to promotion of millets. Now you all must be knowing that based upon a proposal forwarded by India, the United Nations General Assembly has decided to declare the year 2023 as International Year of Millets. What are millets? Millets, as you know, they are the major millets and minor millets such as jawar, bajra, ragi, foxtail millet, and so on, right? All of these are the millets. So in this year's budget, the finance minister has announced that the Indian Institute of Millet Research, which is located in Hyderabad, it will be supported to become a center of excellence. So the idea behind this initiative is to promote India as a global hub for millets. So this is the basic idea. Now with respect to millets in India, millets have discussed in much greater detail in the last year's budget. So in last year's budget, I have discussed almost every part about the millets in India. In fact, the same slide I had used in the last year's budget, wherein I had discussed the significance of millets, the cropping pattern, the problems related to millet production, what initiatives the government has taken, and what strategies we must adopt to improve to increase the production of millets in India. And let me tell you, this topic of millets has been repeatedly appearing in the news since last 2 years. That is why this topic is important both from the perspective of your prelims as well as a mains examination. Since I have already discussed this topic in much greater detail in last year's budget, I would not repeat the same topic once again, right? So those of you who have not seen the last year's budget, please go back, watch the last year's budget, because the last year budget is equally important even for this year prelims also, right? So let's take up the practice question. With respect to millets production in India, consider the following statements. What do you think is the answer? Please focus. Here I'm not asking correct statements. I'm asking incorrect statements. Sabse pehle, India is the largest producer of millets in the world. Yes. There has been decline both in terms of area as well as production. In terms of area, there has been decline in the area under millets, but there has been increase in the production of millets. So the statement which is given here is incorrect. The yield of millets in India is lower than the global average. And this is also very interesting. Usually when you look at the yield of agricultural crops in India, normally we keep criticizing that the yield of agriculture crops in India is lower than that of the global average. But fortunately, in case of millets, the yield of millets in India is much higher than the global average. That is why I have incorporated this. So the yield of millets in India is actually higher, not lower. So even the third statement is incorrect. So right answer is 2 and 3 only. Okay. Now coming to the institutional credit. So with respect to providing institutional credit to the farmers, this year's budget has announced that almost around 20 lakh crore will be provided to the farmers in the form of institutional credit. So we all know the importance of institutional credit to the agriculture, right? Institutional credit is coming in the form of loans from banks, from NBFCs. So by providing for institutional credit, we can promote a virtuous cycle of agricultural development as well as income levels. So just remember this particular flow chart so that if you get a question in UPSC mains about agriculture credit and its significance, you can incorporate this particular flow chart. I hope this flow chart is self-explanatory. I don't have to explain this flow chart, right? Just remember the target. The target is to have 20 lakh crores. Other points are self-explanatory, which I hope you should be able to go through. Okay. Look at the practice question number 10. I hope all of you must have heard about priority sector lending. क्या लगता है आंसर इसका? Okay. सबसे पहले, like I said, farmers in India get loans from two sources, institutional sources and non-institutional sources. The best part is since 1970s, the share of institutional credit has been higher than the share of non-institutional credit. The share of institutional credit right now is almost 70%, and the share of non-institutional credit is 30%. So the first statement which is given here is correct. Second one says that there is separate sub-target for priority sector lending to small and marginal farmers, tenant farmers, and landless farmers. Let's understand. I hope all of you must be knowing that banks in India have different priority sector lending targets. Like for most of the scheduled commercial banks, the priority sector lending target is 40%. For RRBs, it is how much? 75%. For small finance banks also it is 75%. Out of this, certain percentage of loans should be compulsorily given to the agriculture sector, which is normally like 18%. Out of this 18% loans to the agriculture sector, 10% of the loans has to be compulsorily given to small and marginal farmers. So one of the biggest criticisms of the priority sector lending is there is no sub-target when it comes to tenant farmers or the landless farmers. And the statement here says that there is a separate sub-target for tenant farmers as well as landless farmers, which is actually incorrect. I hope you understood the point here, right? So right answer is 1 only. And look at this, which among the following are considered as priority sector loans for the agriculture sector? Now, why is it important? In last year's prelims, there was a question, which among the following loans are part of the loans under Kisan Credit Card, short-term loans under Kisan Credit Card? So on similar lines, I have formulated this particular question. And please do remember that all of these loans are considered as priority sector loans for the agriculture sector. All these loans. So crop loans, Kisan Credit Card, loans against negotiable warehousing receipts, loans to agriculture startups, loans to food processing industries, all of this is part of priority sector loans for agriculture sector. Clear? Okay. Now coming to last initiative under the agriculture sector. The last initiative is with respect to fisheries sector. I hope all of you must be knowing about Blue Revolution, right? Blue Revolution is with respect to development of fisheries sector. For development of fisheries sector, the government of India has launched a scheme called as Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. In this year's budget, the finance minister has announced that a separate component of this particular scheme would be launched. But the details of these components as to what this particular component will include, they are not being highlighted by the finance minister so far. So hopefully in future, the government will soon come out with the detailed guidelines about this new component. So that is why if you know this much, more than sufficient. So let's look at the practice MCQ number 12 here. Correct answer is India is the second largest fish producing country in the world. Second largest, it is second largest fish producing country in the world, which is correct. The share of marine fisheries is higher than the inland fisheries. क्या लगता है? Fisheries we can get from two sources, marine sources and inland sources. Inland sources means rivers, ponds, lakes, and so on. What has happened in India is over a period of time, the share of inland fisheries has increased and the share of marine fisheries has reduced. So right now, the inland fisheries account for the highest share. So the statement which is given here is incorrect. So right answer is 1 only. Are we clear with this concept? Okay. So let's move to the next theme. The next theme is about the theme of banking and finance. So let's start with the first important initiative, that is National Financial Information Registry. Now, please focus here. Whatever I'm going to discuss, it is there on the slide. I will show the slide later. Just focus because this is quite important. We're going to discuss about National Financial Information Registry. What is this registry and why we have set up this particular registry? Now, all of you know that when banks give loans to different customers, the banks need credit information about the borrowers. Credit information about the borrowers means how much loans have people taken in the past and whether they have been able to repay the loans on time or not. So this credit information, which is provided to the banks, in turn helps the banks to distinguish between good borrowers and bad borrowers. So when credit information is provided, banks can give more amount of loans to the good borrowers and they can turn down the loans to the bad borrowers. And just imagine if you don't have this kind of credit information. In absence of credit information, it may lead to a kind of phenomena which is referred to as adverse selection. What is adverse selection? Adverse selection means in case of adverse selection, that is when credit information is not available to the banks, bad borrowers, that is people who have bad credit history, they may get loans at a lesser rate of interest, and good borrowers, people who have got good credit history, they may get loans at a higher rate of interest. Why? Because we don't have a credit information, right? So how do we facilitate credit information to the banks? To give credit information to the banks, what we have right now is credit information companies in India. When you look at these credit information companies in India, right now, we have 4 credit information companies. These 4 credit information companies are Credit Information Bureau India Limited. I hope all of you must have heard about CIBIL score, right? So this is a agency which provides for CIBIL score. Credit Information Bureau India Limited. Then we have CRIF. Then we have a CRIF Highmark. Then we have Experian. Then we have Equifax. So right now we have these 4 credit information companies. Any idea who is regulating these credit information companies? Because this was a question in previous year prelims about credit rating agencies. The credit information companies, please remember, they are not regulated by SEBI. They are regulated by RBI. Very important. Credit rating agencies are regulated by SEBI. We are talking not about credit rating agencies. What are we talking about? Credit information companies. Okay. So here, when you look at this credit information company, they collect the necessary information and this information is given to the banks based upon which banks can distinguish between good borrowers and bad borrowers. But the problem is there are number of problems with respect to credit information companies. What are the problems? Let's understand. The first biggest problem is only credit related information is collected. When I say only credit related information is collected, it means only information related to previous loans taken by a person or a company is taken. Now, why it is a bad thing? Now, let's say I'm a person and I have not taken loans so far. Will I have any credit history? I'll not have any credit history. So how can you know whether I'm credit worthy or not? It's very difficult to know my credit worthiness because I've not taken loans so far. So one is this particular problem. The second problem is there is lack of coordination between these 4 credit information companies. So when we do not have effective coordination between those 4 credit information companies, automatically it leads to lack of information overlapping, or will not be able to capture the entire information. Am I audible clearly? Was there any disturbance in between? Okay, fine. So lack of coordination is the second important problem. And third and most important is ancillary information or subsidiary information which can prove my credit worthiness. That information is not collected. Now just think and tell me what kind of subsidiary information or what kind of ancillary information about a company or a person can prove its credit worthiness apart from the loans which it has taken. My income levels, how much is my income? Or if I own a particular company, what is the balance sheet of the company? How much tax I am paying to the government, right? So there are certain ancillary information such as balance sheet of a company, how much tax I am paying. This kind of information is presently not even collected. So this is the biggest problem as far as credit information in India is concerned. So first and foremost, we are collecting information only about previous loans. If someone has not taken loans so far, he don't have any credit history at all. Second, there's lack of coordination between multiple agencies. And third, ancillary or subsidiary information is not collected. This was a problem which was identified by RBI way back in the year 2018. So that time, RBI had appointed a committee. Please remember the name of the committee. It's quite important. Yashwant Geostali Committee. This particular committee identified all of these problems. And after identifying these problems, this committee then recommended the RBI to set up a new agency called as PCR. It stands for Public Credit Registry. PCR is Public Credit Registry. This was an agency which was proposed to be set up by this particular committee. What would this particular agency do? This agency will collect all the credit related information, plus it will also collect all the ancillary information about the borrowers, which can in turn help the banks to access the credit worthiness of a borrower. This was a recommendation given when? 2018. And abhi 5 saal ke baad, 2023, we have now decided to set up a new agency, which the government has decided to call it as National Financial Information Registry. Like I said, ancillary information is any kind of information which can help the banks to know the credit worthiness of the borrower. Ancillary information could be about the income level of a person, if there's a company, the balance sheet of the company, the tax payment by the person. All this is a kind of ancillary information. Okay, now can you quickly think about the benefits of this National Financial Information Registry? What do you think are the benefits? Quickly. Lower NPS, good Archie. Reduce NPS. Easy and fast process, good Shailaja. Faster loans, good Mahesh. No adverse selection, good. Good Tanishka. Good. Fine. So I hope you understood the new concept, all of you. Okay. Please have a look at the mind map. That is what I said. Do not write anything. Whatever I am explaining, everything is there in the form of mind map. So I have highlighted importance of credit information. What is the present status? What are the problems with respect to collection of credit information? So ancillary information such as tax paid, balance sheet of the company is not captured. Look at the committee, Geostali Committee, 2018, Budget 23-24 proposal, set up National Financial Information Registry to collect all financial as well as ancillary information. To be set up by whom? By the RBI. Benefits, you can see all of these are the benefits. Understood, all of you? Right? Chandrakant, I'll come to your doubt later. Okay. Okay. Practice MCQ number 13. सबसे पहले, the credit information companies are regulated by SEBI. They are not regulated by SEBI, they are regulated by RBI. The Credit Information Bureau India Limited is a public sector owned credit information company. It's not public sector owned company. It's a private sector owned company. So right answer is neither one nor two. So if you go back to previous year prelims question, there's a question related to credit rating agencies. The question has been formulated on similar lines. Look at this question. The NFIR would provide all the financial and ancillary information to the banks to access the credit worthiness of the borrowers. NFIR is set to replace and take over all the existing credit information companies. Did I say that? No, right? If it was that important, I would have said that. So this is the kind of confusion which UPSC creates in your mind by giving up with a statement which is a very random statement. So this is incorrect. So right answer is one only. Okay. Next, coming to credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs. Let's understand what is this credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs. To make your understanding easier, what I've done is I've incorporated a flow chart and I've numbered the sequence of events which take place. Let's look at that point. Sabse pehle, you have a bank. This bank will extend collateral-free loan to MSME. When it extends a loan to MSME without any kind of collateral, that time the bank will pay a kind of guarantee fee to an entity which has been set up by SIDBI and Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise. So both these entities have come together and set up Credit Guarantee Fund Trust for micro and small enterprises. So bank will pay the guarantee fee to this particular entity. In return, this entity will guarantee repayment of loans which the MSME has taken. So here, if the MSME defaults on repayment of loan, this entity on behalf of MSME will pay loan to the particular bank. So it's simply, it's like a kind of insurance which the banks take whenever they give any kind of collateral-free loans to the MSMEs. It's a kind of risk on, it's a kind of insurance, where in case of insurance, what do we pay? We pay an insurance premium. Here, what are they paying? They're paying only guarantee fee. That's the only thing. I hope you understood. Now, why do you think we have come up with such a scheme? Now, we know that MSMEs, their contribution to the Indian economy is very immense. They contribute almost like 28% to India's GDP. They contribute 45% to the manufacturing output, and they contribute 40% to India's exports. But the biggest problem which MSME sector face is lack of access to credit. So in order to encourage banks to give more amount of collateral-free loans to MSMEs, we have come up with a particular scheme. Now there are some salient features of this scheme. Let's look at this. Which all categories of banks can take a guarantee from this particular entity? It covers all the banks, including the scheduled commercial banks as well as regional rural banks. That's the first thing. Second, what's the loan limit for providing guarantee? Loan guarantee is given only for loans of up to how much? Rupees 2 crores. Iska matlab kya hai? If this MSME takes loan of more than 2 crores, will this entity give any guarantee? This entity will not give guarantee. Guarantee is given only when this MSME is taking loans of lesser than or equal to 2 crores. And look at the last part, extent of guarantee. So if this MSME defaults on repayment of loans, what extent of loan amount will this entity pay to the bank? Kitna guarantee dega? This guarantee ranges from 50% to 85% of the loan amount. Minimum guarantee kitna ho sakta hai? 50%. Maximum guarantee kitna ho sakta hai? 85%. So let's say the guarantee is, for example, 50%. This MSME has taken loans worth 2 crores. In future, this MSME fails to repay the loans. Then this entity will pay how much in this case? 1 crore. Ankit, here guarantee is just like a insurance. In case of insurance, you pay insurance premium, right? In this case, this bank is simply paying a guarantee fee. Again, loan to MSME, you guarantee that if this MSME defaults a loan repayment, you should make me the payment on behalf of the MSME. That's a guarantee fee. Clear, Ankit? Okay. So what's the new budget announcement? In the new budget announcement, we have decided to infuse almost like 9,000 crores into this particular fund. It's a new budget announcement. So since this particular scheme is in news, please remember about the salient features of this particular scheme. Okay. Now coming to a very interesting concept of data embassies. Let's understand what are data embassies. Now, before discussing the concept of data embassy, which was announced in this year's budget, let me just take an example from a day-to-day life. Now, let's say you have done a lot of hard work and you have prepared elaborate notes. And these elaborate notes related to your exam preparation, you have stored on your laptop. And you have thought that you'll use these particular notes later for the revision. Now, can I say some of you who are very careful, who are very cautious, you have this genuine fear. What if my laptop crashes later? अगर मेरा लैपटॉप क्रैश हो गया तो जो कुछ भी मेरे नोट्स हैं वो सब चले जाएंगे. So what will you do? You will back up those notes, right? You will take a backup of those notes onto a hard drive. You will transfer the notes to a hard drive so that in future, even if the laptop crashes, you will still have access to those precious notes which you have built over a period of time. Now extend the same logic to a particular country. Can I say a particular country has, huge amount of sensitive and critical data. If it stores all the sensitive and critical data within its own physical boundaries, and in in an event such as say cyber attack or a natural disaster, it's quite possible that the entire data of a particular country can get wiped out. So what can such a country do? Such a particular country can simply set up servers. Such a country can simply set up servers outside its physical boundaries in other countries. So these data centers, these servers, which one country sets up in other countries, this itself we call it as data embassies. आप सभी ने सुना होगा foreign embassy. Like in India, we have foreign embassies of US, UK, and all other countries have their foreign embassies in India. Similar to foreign embassies, we are going to have data embassies in India. Foreign embassies, are they regulated by our own laws or are they regulated by international laws? Foreign embassies. Physically, when you look at foreign embassies, they are located in India, but our laws are not applicable to these foreign embassies. They are applicable by international laws. For example, you must have heard about Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Suna hai aapne? So this international convention will determine how a foreign embassy would work. On similar lines, when one country is setting up a data embassy in India, this data embassy, even though it is located in India, it will not be governed by our own laws. It will be governed through the international laws. You got this point, all of you? Now, let's look at one of the best example of a data embassy which a country has set up. Some of you must have heard about a country called as Estonia. Suna hai aapne? Estonia. Now, Estonia is probably one of the country which is at the forefront of digital revolution. What it has done is it has adopted 100% paperless governance. By adopting 100% paperless governance, all the services which the Estonian government is providing, it has moved to a digital platform. And the problem is, Estonia has been affected by cyber attacks in the recent past. So its servers, its data center is highly vulnerable to the attacks. So what Estonia government has done is, it has entered into an agreement with Luxembourg government. By entering into agreement with the Luxembourg government, Estonia has set up data centers or servers where? In Luxembourg. Now, who will protect these data centers and servers? It will be protected by Luxembourg. But whose laws will be applicable to these data centers? Not that of Luxembourg. The laws of Estonia will be applicable to data centers. So it's a kind of an agreement which these two countries have come into being, and they have set up a world's first ever data embassy. So first ever data embassy has been set up by whom? Estonia. Where has it been set up? In Luxembourg. Now, as far as India is concerned, we know we are already a IT powerhouse of the global level. On similar lines, it is being said that India has a potential to emerge as the world's hard drive. Can you look at the significance here? We are talking India emerging as world's hard drive. इसका मतलब क्या है? We can encourage other countries to come and set up their data embassies in India. We can become the next hard drive of the world. So in order to ensure that India becomes one of the world's hard drive, recently the finance minister has decided to enable setting up of data embassies by other countries in India. But right now, these data embassies are going to be set up not in the domestic territory of India, rather they are going to be set up in GIFT IFSC. I hope you must be knowing. They have set up an International Financial Service Center, GIFT City in Ahmedabad. So as of now, data embassies will be set up only at GIFT, not in the rest of Indian territory. So this is the most important development. What do you think are the benefits for India? What will we get in return? Yes. Take your time. What are the benefits? Soft power, foreign exchange, foreign earnings, investment, commission for maintaining the data, increased technological. So can I say, first and foremost, when we have come up with a framework to set up a data embassy, can I say it will encourage a large number of foreign companies to set up their data centers in India? So you have companies such as Google, you have companies such as Amazon, which are maintaining huge data servers. So they can move their data servers to the GIFT City IFSC for more amount of investment in data storage. As we are able to promote more amount of investment later over a period of time, these countries may need certain subsidiary services from Indian software companies also, subsidiary services such as analysis of the data, right? So it can help us promote the IT sector also. We can create jobs also. So it has a potential to have multifaceted benefits in terms of higher investment, creation of jobs, giving a fillip to the IT sector, and so on. So you can just have a look at this particular mind map on data embassies. So you can see meaning of data embassy: data centers or servers set up by a country outside its physical borders. Just like foreign embassies, data embassies are governed by whom? By the foreign laws. Example: world's first data embassy will be established by has been established by Estonia and Luxembourg. Rationale: it will help the countries to provide for digital continuity in event of cyber attacks, disasters. Enable countries to save their critical data across the world. Budget proposal will facilitate setting up of data embassies in GIFT City IFSC. Clear with this, all of you? Okay. Practice MCQ number 15. Answer is A. B is incorrect because it does not give guarantee on 100% of the loan amount. Practice MCQ number 16. Look at the first option. It refers to data centers set up by foreign countries in their embassies located in India. Are they going to set up data centers in their embassies? They're not going to set up the data embassies in India, right? Look at the option D. It refers to data centers set up by foreign countries in the GIFT IFSC in India, which is actually correct. It cannot be C. We're not going to set up data centers in other countries. Rather, we are asking other countries to set up data centers in India. Okay. Now coming to next part, that is Urban Infrastructure Development Fund. Let's understand about Urban Infrastructure Development Fund. So here we know that there is a priority sector lending target for different banks, which I said for most of the banks is like 40%. For RRBs, it is 75%. For small finance banks, it is 75%. Right now, what happens is whenever there is a shortfall in priority sector lending target, for example, let's say you have ICICI Bank, it has given total 100 rupees in the form of loans, out of which it is required to give 40 rupees loans to the priority sector. Let's say here, this ICICI Bank, it has not given 40 rupees. It has given just 25 rupees as priority sector loans. The shortfall in this case is how much? Rupees 15, right? Rupees 15 is the shortfall. And what happens is when a bank is unable to fulfill its lending target with respect to priority sector, the shortfall amount gets distributed across 3 different funds. One is RIDF, Rural Infrastructure Development Fund, which is managed by NABARD. As the name suggests, this particular fund will be used for development of infrastructure in rural India. A certain part of the fund will go towards Small Enterprises Development Fund, which is managed by SIDBI. As the name suggests, it will be used for development of small scale enterprises. Certain amount of fund goes towards Affordable Housing Fund. As the name suggests, this particular fund will be used by NHB for building houses. So here, the RBI will decide what proportion of this shortfall will be distributed across 3 different funds. Now, taking this forward, in this year's budget, the finance minister has created an additional fund, which is called as what? Urban Infrastructure Development Fund. Look at this fund. इसका क्या नाम है? Rural Infrastructure Development Fund. इसका क्या नाम है? Urban Infrastructure Development Fund. That one we are going to use it for development of rural areas. This one we are going to develop for urban areas. And look who is going to manage this. NHB. Got this point? So itna yaad rakh lo, that should be more than sufficient as far as Urban Infrastructure Development Fund is concerned. Are we clear now? Okay. Now coming to the next topic. The next topic is about the municipal bonds. So with respect to municipal bonds here,